His whimpers barely echoed through the pine-covered hills, but for those who heard them, they never forgot. Nestled on the edge of a sleepy mountain town, a dilapidated barn stood half-swallowed by the forest. No one had lived there in years, at least not any human. But inside, curled beneath a rotting workbench and shivering from the cold, was a German Shepherd puppy no more than 3 weeks old. His fur, still damp from the storm the night before, was matted with mud and straw. He didn't cry out anymore. The townspeople had heard something strange the past few nights. Low growls, a rustling in the underbrush, and once, a long, blood-curdling yelp that made Mrs. Aldridge drop her teacup. This morning, the valley woke to silence. That's when Ellie, a reclusive wildlife photographer, spotted something unusual through her lens from across the ridge. A flash of auburn fur moving fast. She adjusted the zoom. A fox. But not just any fox. Lean, aggressive, and far too bold for daylight. The lens swept past a fluttering barn window. Tiny movement. The fox was already inside. Ellie's heart stopped. She wasn't sure what lived in that barn. Maybe a raccoon. Maybe a wounded bird. But something in her gut screamed otherwise. And then those eyes. Through the cracked glass, barely visible behind scattered tools. A pair of wide, pleading eyes stared out. Eyes too large for a raccoon. Too scared to belong to a predator. A puppy. The fox lowered itself silently, creeping toward the dark corner. The puppy didn't move. Couldn't. Ellie didn't think. She ran. Camera dropped, boots pounding against moss and gravel. She didn't know what she'd find, or if she was already too late. But just as the fox bared its teeth, something else stirred. From the trees beyond the barn, a shadow flickered. Someone was coming. And in the chaos about to unfold, lives would change forever, because that puppy wasn't alone anymore. And fate had just rewritten his story. Snow clung stubbornly to the branches of the pines, bending them into frozen arches that loomed over the winding trail like quiet sentinels. Ellie's boots crunched rhythmically as she moved through the forest, camera strapped across her chest, breath curling into the cold morning air. The sky above was an ashen gray, bruised with hints of an oncoming storm, and yet, somewhere between the cold silence and distant rustle of leaves, there was something oddly comforting. A single beam of light filtered through a gap in the clouds, landing on a moss-covered stone near the edge of the path, just enough to make the engraved paw print etched into it glisten faintly. She paused. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached up to adjust the lens on her camera, more out of habit than necessity. The unease wasn't new. For weeks now, she'd felt something unsettled in these woods, like eyes watching her from just beyond the tree line. But today was different. There was something quieter about it, less threatening, almost expectant, as if the forest was holding its breath. Beyond the trees, a worn, half-buried trail led down to the abandoned barn. Its roof partially caved in, its windows smudged with years of dirt and storms. Ellie hesitated before stepping toward it. The last time she'd ventured near that place, she'd found claw marks on the wooden doors. Too low for a bear, too sharp for a coyote. She hadn't mentioned it to anyone, not even to herself. But her dreams had, every night since they'd returned, of low growls and soft cries echoing through the trees. She wrapped her coat tighter, her hand brushing against the old dog whistle she'd once carried for her late companion, Max. It had slipped into her pocket this morning by accident, or maybe not. The metal gleamed faintly, catching that same ray of light that had touched the pawprint stone. Somewhere in the distance, a faint bark echoed once. Then silence. Ellie didn't smile, but her heartbeat quickened. Not from fear this time, but something else. Something closer to hope. Ellie Morgan wasn't the type to run from things. But loss had a way of hollowing even the strongest people. And ever since her younger brother passed in a hit and run no one ever solved, she'd buried herself in solitude and photography. Her cabin, nestled deep in the northern woods, had become both sanctuary and prison. Safe from people, but not from memories. She filled her days capturing fractured light through the trees and frozen stills of forgotten trails, as if searching for something in nature that could make sense of grief. And then came Cody. The German Shepherd pup had appeared 2 winters ago, shivering, mud-caked, and growling from beneath her deck like he'd survived a storm no one had seen. She'd spent 2 full days coaxing him out with scraps of cooked chicken and soft-spoken promises. Even when he finally emerged, Cody never wagged his tail. His ears were too alert, his eyes too sharp, like he'd seen things no dog should. He slept curled in the corner at first, facing the door, flinching at every creak of the cabin wood. Ellie gave him space, spoke in hushed tones, and waited. And slowly, Cody began to trust her. Not completely, not the way dogs were supposed to, but enough to follow her through the woods, to nudge her arm when her hands trembled, and to stand watch when the nightmares came. Sometimes, she'd catch him staring off into the trees, still and silent, as if something out there knew him, something he wasn't ready to remember. He bore a long scar across his right hind leg, partially hidden beneath thick fur. Ellie had asked the vet, but even they couldn't explain its clean, surgical shape. It looked man-made, deliberate. She never put a collar on him. He wouldn't let her. Yet he stayed. Loyal, protective, always between her and the wild. When she walked toward the edge of the frozen lake or near the broken fences of the old hunting lodge, Cody would stiffen, ears pricked, eyes narrowed, warning her without sound. Still, on mornings like this, when the wind was gentle and the birds dared to sing again, Ellie would see something flicker in his gaze, a softness, like the pup he might have been. She wondered if she could help him heal, the way he unknowingly helped her. But today, as she stepped closer to the barn with Cody trotting beside her, she had no idea that what lay ahead would tear open the mystery behind those eyes, and everything she thought she knew about loyalty, danger, and the past. It started with the footprints. Ellie noticed them just past dawn, a trail of scattered paw prints leading from the edge of the woods to the barn, then veering off sharply toward the ridge. Cody never wandered far without her. He never broke routine. Every morning, he waited by the door until she finished her coffee. But this morning, the front porch was empty, his bowl untouched. No soft whine, no greeting nudge, just silence, sharp and unnatural. She followed the prints in her boots, heart pounding beneath her coat. The snow was crisp, too recent for the prints to have faded. Yet the way they abruptly vanished near a cluster of trees set a chill deeper than the wind. Ellie called his name over and over, the way she had when he first came to her, soft, pleading. No rustle, no bark, nothing. Inside the barn, the tools were untouched. The rope, the spare fencing, all as she left them. But near the back wall, something had changed. Her brother's old toolbox had been dragged open, empty cans and wires pulled out. And pinned under a shovel was something she hadn't seen in years. A rusted dog tag. It wasn't Cody's, he never wore one, but it bore a military stamp and a number etched so faintly she had to hold it to the light. The name was too worn to read, but the number, it was still clear. Shaking, she stuffed the tag into her jacket pocket. Cody had always avoided the barn. Always. Why had he come here? Back inside the cabin, Ellie dug through her brother's old laptop. She hadn't touched it in a year, but something in her gut told her this was connected. Her brother had served briefly before his discharge. There were files, encrypted folders labeled with codes, one marked Falcon. It took hours, several failed attempts, and a near meltdown, but she cracked one of them open, only to find grainy photographs of dogs in harnesses, cages, and training yards surrounded by barbed wire. One of them looked eerily like Cody. Same scar, same eyes. The realization slammed into her like a physical blow. Cody hadn't just wandered into her life. He'd escaped from somewhere, from someone. A sudden knock on the door jolted her. She froze, breath shallow. No one ever came this deep into the woods without warning. Peering through the peephole, she saw nothing, only a shadow moving past the trees. When she opened the door, there was no one, but something lay at the foot of the porch. A note, handwritten, wet from the snow. You're not safe. Neither is the dog. Stay inside. No name, no signature. Ellie locked every door, every window, her mind spinning. Was someone looking for Cody? Had they found him? She spent the night pacing, clutching the tag, her fingers trembling as she stared at the woods through her frosted window. No sound. No sign of Cody. The first light, she left. She couldn't sit and wait. The footprints were gone, snow having covered all traces of where Cody went. But the ridge, he'd headed toward the ridge. It was a jagged line of cliffs just beyond the old hunting lodge, a place most locals avoided due to loose rock and rumors of cougar sightings. But Cody wasn't afraid of much. If he was running for a reason. Ellie climbed steadily, snow crunching under her boots, the air thinner with each step. She called his name, again and again, until finally, just past a bend in the path, she heard it. A bark, faint, but unmistakable. She sprinted, ignoring the ache in her legs, the sting of the wind. The sound grew louder, more urgent, more frantic. And then she saw him, trapped. Cody stood on a narrow ledge halfway down the cliffside, tail stiff, barking toward something below. Ellie edged closer, heart hammering. She dropped to her knees and peered down. That's when she saw the fox. It was lean, wild-eyed, pacing in the snow near the base of the ledge. But it wasn't just a fox. It was snarling at something else. A second dog. A puppy. Ellie's stomach dropped. The small German Shepherd pup was wedged between rocks, trembling, bleeding from one paw. And Cody was above, barking wildly, trying to draw the fox's attention away. The fox lunged. Without thinking, Ellie scrambled down the ridge, slipping, grabbing branches, heart racing as Cody barked louder. She reached the bottom just in time to see the fox whip around, startled by her presence, and vanish into the brush. The pup whimpered, cowering against the rocks. Cody leapt down, landing awkwardly, but he rushed to the puppy's side, licking its face, whimpering. Ellie stared in disbelief. Where had the pup come from? Why had Cody risked everything to protect it? She bundled the small pup in her coat, wincing as it cried out, then turned to Cody, who nudged her hand as if urging her to hurry. They climbed back slowly, the pup in her arms, Cody at her side. But questions burned through her mind. Who left that note? Why was there a tag in the barn? And what was this new puppy to Cody? Back at the cabin, she dressed the pup's wounds, gave it warm broth, and watched as it snuggled against Cody without fear. Something deep, silent, and unbreakable passed between them. Not just recognition, but protection. As if Cody had known this pup. As if it was family. Later that night, Ellie examined the tag again. On a hunch, she entered the number into a veterans database. A hit came up, a dog handler named Sergeant Marcus Fielding. Deceased. Killed in a facility break-in 2 years ago. Cause? Unknown. One of the dogs assigned to him? Codenamed Falcon. The picture confirmed it. Cody had a name once. A life. A mission. And now he had returned for something. For someone. The pup. Ellie's eyes welled. All this time, Cody had been guarding more than her. He was keeping a promise. Perhaps he had been trying to lead her here, to this moment. And in doing so, he had brought back not only the truth but hope. Still, the shadows in the woods lingered. Someone had warned her. Someone had watched them. And in the morning, something far more dangerous than a fox would return. Looking for what Cody had just found. The morning broke cold and clear, sunlight glinting off the frost-laced windows of the cabin, casting golden spears across the hardwood floor. Ellie stirred from a light sleep on the couch, the puppy curled against her chest, Cody keeping vigil near the door. The night had passed without incident, but unease clung to the air like mist. Something about the previous day, the hidden dog tag, the note, the fox, and now the sudden appearance of the pup, knotted her thoughts like brambles. Outside, all was quiet. Too quiet. The birds weren't singing. The forest held its breath. Ellie gently set the pup on a blanket near the fireplace and stepped out onto the porch, eyes scanning the trees. Snow had stopped falling sometime during the night, and the world looked deceptively peaceful. But then she saw them, new paw prints in the snow. Not Cody's. Not the pup's. Larger. Spaced in long strides. And they weren't coming from the forest. They were circling the cabin. Her breath caught. Someone had been here again, watching, or worse, waiting. She rushed back inside, locking the door, her heart pounding. Cody stood alert, ears pricked, muscles tensed. Ellie knelt beside him, pressing her forehead to his. "What do they want from you?" she whispered. Cody didn't move, just stared at the door, as if anticipating something. She decided to track the prince, alone. It was risky, but the waiting, the not knowing, was eating her alive. She bundled up, slipped her brother's old hunting knife into her coat, and told Cody to stay. He hesitated, tail low, but obeyed. The puppy yawned and curled tighter into its blanket, blissfully unaware of the tension thickening around them. The tracks curved past the cabin, into the trees, leading her deeper than she had gone in weeks. They zigzagged, stopped abruptly near a tree, then picked up again, like someone trying to throw off a trail, and then, midway through the thicket, they vanished. Ellie knelt, brushing the snow aside. Nothing, but something glinted beneath a pine branch, a scrap of fabric. Camouflage. A chill passed through her. This wasn't a hunter. This was tactical. Suddenly, a noise behind her. A twig snapping. She spun, knife ready. But it was only a deer, bounding off into the woods. Relief flooded her for a second, until she noticed a dark object hanging from a nearby branch. Camera. Hidden. Wired to a motion sensor. Someone had been watching them. She tore it down and sprinted back toward the cabin, heart hammering. Who was tracking them? And why? Back inside, Cody met her at the door, his body rigid. The puppy whimpered from the blanket. Ellie held up the camera, her fingers trembling. "They're not just watching," she muttered. "They're studying us." She powered the device on. No password, just stored files. The footage showed her, from yesterday, calling for Cody in the woods. Then Cody, returning with the pup. Then, a figure in the distance, tall, masked, watching from behind a tree. Ellie's blood turned to ice. But before she could study it more, the camera feed cut to black. Someone had erased the rest. It wasn't just surveillance, it was a message. "We're ahead of you." Ellie didn't sleep that night. Neither did Cody. He stood at the door, growling low under his breath as shadows danced on the wall. Around 3 a.m., a branch snapped outside. Then another. Ellie grabbed her brother's flashlight and edged toward the window. She flicked the light across the tree line, expecting eyes to glow back. But nothing stared, until she moved the beam again, and it caught a reflection. Metal. A drone. It hovered silently, then zipped away the moment the light found it. Cody barked furiously, launching at the door. Ellie grabbed his collar, pulling him back. "They're not just looking for you," she whispered. "They're watching how I protect you." The next day, she made a plan. She'd take Cody and the pup and leave. There was an old ranger station 2 miles out, abandoned since last spring's flood. But it had a satellite phone. If she could reach it, she could call for help. Real help. Not just from the sheriff, who'd brushed her off when she called last week, but someone higher up. Whoever was after Cody after this pup was trained, funded, dangerous. They left at dawn, slipping into the trees under a gray sky. Cody stayed ahead, the puppy swaddled inside Ellie's pack. The forest felt alive in a way it hadn't before, watchful, silent. As they neared the halfway point, Cody stopped suddenly, nose twitching. Ellie followed his gaze to the snow. Boot prints. Fresh. And not alone. 2 sets. One heavy, one lighter. Moving fast. She ducked behind a fallen log, holding her breath as the crunch of snow approached. 2 men emerged from the trees, dressed in black, armed. Not military. Private. One of them muttered. "The signal's coming from up the ridge. She's trying to run." The other nodded. "Falcon's priority. Take the pup alive." Ellie's breath hitched. So it was true. Cody had been one of theirs. Falcon. That was his designation. She waited until they passed, then doubled back, cutting a path through the brush, off-trail, silent. Cody followed, watching her every move. They moved like ghosts through the trees, snow muffling their steps. When they finally saw the ranger station, it stood crooked against the slope. Half the roof caved in, but the antenna still intact. Inside, Ellie kicked open the rusted door. Dust flew. Cody scouted ahead while she found the emergency satellite phone beneath a tarp. It still worked. The signal blinked red, searching. Then green. She called the only person she could trust, her uncle, a retired intelligence officer. She explained everything, voice tight, rushed, desperate. He was silent for a long moment. Then, "Stay put. I'll scramble help. Don't let them take the dog. Either of them." The line went dead. Outside, a branch snapped. Cody growled low. They were coming. But Ellie wasn't running anymore. This time, she was ready. The wind howled through the broken windows of the ranger station, rattling the walls as Ellie gripped the hunting knife tightly in her trembling hand. Cody stood at the door, hackles raised, ears perked, every muscle taut with alertness. The shadow of footsteps loomed closer, crunching over the frostbitten earth just beyond the cracked threshold. Ellie's breath came shallow and fast, but there was no turning back now. Help was on its way, but only if she held on long enough. The door slammed open with a thunderous crash, 2 figures storming inside. The taller one's eyes glinted beneath a black mask, his voice sharp and low. "You can't hide here, Ellie. Falcon belongs to us." Cody growled, stepping forward like a wall of fierce loyalty. Fur bristling, teeth bared. The men hesitated just for a heartbeat, but that was all Ellie needed. She lunged forward, slashing the air near the closest attacker's hand, forcing him back. Panic flashed in the masked man's eyes as Cody sprang, teeth snapping, knocking the intruder off balance. The other man aimed a gun, but before he could fire, a powerful bark echoed from behind. Suddenly, the puppy emerged from Ellie's pack, tiny but fearless, rushing toward the second assailant with a courage that defied its size. The man stumbled, distracted by the sudden attack, and Cody seized the moment, pinning him to the floor. Ellie's heart hammered fiercely as she realized the full truth unfolding before her eyes. This was no ordinary pup. This small, scrappy dog was fighting alongside Cody, like they were a team forged by something far deeper than chance. As the men struggled beneath the onslaught, the truth she'd feared and hoped was finally undeniable. These dogs had been trained, part of a covert operation. Dogs not just bred for obedience, but for survival, for protection, for something vital. Her thoughts flashed back to the note she found, the mysterious Falcon code, the hidden dog tag. Cody wasn't just her dog. He was a weapon, a secret kept in plain sight. The pup was his companion, a new recruit in an unfolding mission. Suddenly, the sound of helicopters slicing through the sky made Ellie's blood race with relief. Her uncle had kept his promise. From the windows, she could see flashing lights weaving through the trees as a team of rescuers closed in. The masked men scrambled, desperation fueling their retreat. Ellie felt the weight of every second as she and Cody subdued the last attacker, their breaths ragged but triumphant. Cody's fierce eyes softened as Ellie knelt beside him, hands trembling but steadying as she stroked his thick fur. The puppy trotted back to her, wagging its tail despite its small size, eyes bright with the thrill of victory. The rescue team burst through the door moments later, uniforms and weapons at the ready. Ellie explained everything between ragged breaths: the chase, the watching, the men who had hunted them. Her uncle's voice crackled over the radio, assuring that the men were part of a rogue Black Ops group, seeking to reclaim the dogs for dark purposes. Ellie's eyes filled with tears, not from fear now, but relief. Her dog, her brave, loyal Cody, had saved them all. The pup, too, was more than just a foundling. He was a symbol of hope, a promise of new beginnings. Days later, safe in the warmth of the cabin, Cody lay sprawled at Ellie's feet, the puppy curled in a ball beside him. The danger was gone, but the bond between them had never been stronger. Ellie smiled softly, tracing the worn dog tag around Cody's neck, now shining brightly in the morning sun. "We're a team," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Forever." Outside, the forest whispered a quiet peace, and for the first time in a long while, hope wasn't just a distant glimmer. It was alive, wagging a tail, and ready to face whatever came next. Ellie sat quietly on the porch steps, the early morning sun casting a gentle glow over the peaceful forest surrounding her cabin. Cody rested his head on her lap, his warm breath steady and calm after the whirlwind of chaos they had survived together. In that quiet moment, she felt something she hadn't dared to believe for a long time: peace. The fear that once haunted her nights had melted away, replaced by a deep, unshakable bond forged in the fire of their shared struggle. She traced her fingers along Cody's thick fur, remembering the moments when doubt and uncertainty had threatened to break them. But here they were, stronger than ever. The puppy, now lively and fearless, played nearby, a living symbol of hope and new beginnings. Ellie's heart swelled with gratitude for the unexpected family they had become. Flawed, battered, but unbreakable. In the trials they faced, Ellie had found more than just a loyal companion. She had found courage within herself, a resilience she never knew she possessed. Cody had taught her that love wasn't just comfort. It was strength, a force that could push through darkness and fear. Their journey was a testament to the power of trust and the quiet heroism found in everyday moments of devotion. Looking out at the forest that once felt so threatening, Ellie smiled softly. The danger was gone, but the lessons remained. A reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could be found in the smallest, bravest hearts. Together, they had faced the unknown and come out the other side, their bond a beacon of light in the shadows. They didn't need grand adventures or heroic titles to be heroes. They just needed each other. And as the sun climbed higher, warming the world around them, Ellie knew one thing for certain. They'd found each other, and that was more than enough. What would you have done if you were in Ellie's shoes, standing alone in the dark, hearing the faint bark of a lost puppy? Would you have followed those desperate tracks through the woods, hoping against hope to find him safe? Tell us in the comments below. How far would you go to save a friend who never gave up on you? Cody's story isn't just about bravery. It's about the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog, a bond that grew stronger with every challenge they faced together. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales where courage, hope, and love shine through. Sharing this video with friends and family could inspire someone who needs to hear that even in the darkest moments, a loyal friend can light the way. We want to hear your stories too. Have you ever experienced a moment where your pet surprised you with their bravery or love? Drop your stories below and let's build a community that celebrates these amazing connections. Your comment might just give someone else the hope they need today. Remember, every like, every share, and every subscription helps us bring more heartwarming and suspenseful dog stories to life. Stories that remind us why these loyal companions are truly family. So join us, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of the incredible journeys waiting right here. Together, let's celebrate the extraordinary bond between humans and their dogs.